Cheers, big ears, and welcome to the Beach Travel Wine Podcast. We are your hosts, Leanne.
And I'm Lyle.
And we are not your usual travel influencers. No, we've decided we want to be travellers that travel under the influence. Okay, good joke?
Reasonable.
Well, there's plenty more where that come from. So join us as we travel the world, one wine at a time. Hola, mi amor.
Hola, Leonita.
Well, welcome back to the Beach Travel Wine Podcast, everyone. And today we are going to talk about our time in Haro, which is one of the wine regions of Spain, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's in the largest wine area. It's in La Rioja.
La Rioja area of Spain, right. And they produce, the most of Spanish wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, heaps and heaps of it. Now, the reason we went to Haro is because when we were coming back to Spain, one of the places I wanted to go was to a wine region, and I got in contact with, through Instagram, to Chris Lynch from the Spanish Wine Collective. He was on the When in Spain podcast, and he knows all about Spanish wine and Spanish wine areas, and he said that Haro was the place to go. Well, it was the place to go close to where we were already going, so we quickly did a bit of a change of plan and added Haro into our itinerary, didn't we? So, and that was from after Burgos, wasn't it? So we headed up to Haro from Burgos, which wasn't a very long trip, was it?
No, but we did had at the start of that particular trip, we were catching a train to Miranda
de Ebro.
Miranda de Ebro.
Yeah.
And anyway, Leanne called the cab, and we're out the front of the apartment, and it didn't come for a little while, did it?
Well, I thought, how long will I give it before it turns up, right? So it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and so at 7 o'clock in the morning doesn't sound early in other countries, but in Spain, 7 o'clock in the morning is pretty early. You don't see many people about, and so nothing came. So I rang again, and I said, look, I've already ordered one, but it hasn't turned up. And she basically said, yeah, righto, it's coming.
So 2 turned up.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got on the first one, and it was about a 20-minute drive to the brand new railway station.
Yeah.
And anyway, we got there probably
7:32.
7:32, yeah. And the train station doesn't open at 7:30. So we got there, and the cleaners were still there. And
the security guard looked at me and looked at his watch, and because our train didn't leave till 8:23. I just imagined it was a pretty big city. It's a train station. Normally people are on and off trains going to work, going places.
not in Burgos.
No, not in Burgos. Anyway, I thought we might get a coffee or something too, but there would be no chance of that. Like half the lights weren't even on. So so up we go, and
anyway. We confirmed. Liam went and confirmed which platform we were going to go from, and so we just went up and waited. The train trip wasn't very long.
An hour.
And it was just as you went through the mountains, because obviously the trains go up to a degree, but then they go through because they're quite high mountains. The landscape just changes totally, and it's like you're going into another Spain. It is absolutely glorious. Yeah,
it's like going from sort of that Mediterranean to much more lush and green mountainous, isn't it?
Yeah, it was outstanding.
Yeah, and you do go up a bit, and the wine area was up quite high, wasn't it? And then the next part of getting to Haro was another connection I made on Instagram through the When in Spain podcast through Chris Lynch from the Spanish Wine Collective. He gave me the name and the details of a guy called Jose, who runs a little company or runs his own little business called Taxiaro. And he said this guy's, he's an honest guy. He won't overcharge you. He's got really good recommendations. He's the guy to look after you in Haro. So I messaged him, and Taxi Haro, Jose, turned up at the train station and waving madly at us. He was so friendly and really nice guy. Picked us up and took us on the, I don't know, was it 40 k's or something to
Yeah.
Haro?
So, and that was the best thing we could have done, because it just takes all the stress out of whether we're going to get, whether there's going to be a cab there or whether we catch a bus. The rest of the distance, and he was the nicest man, and of course Leanne and him spoke Spanish all the way to the Eurostar.
Yeah, to our accommodation. Well, the thing about speaking Spanish with Jose is he speaks quite good English, and so if I didn't get a Spanish word, I would just say the English word, and then he understood, and then he'd give me the Spanish word without me even having to ask. And the other thing is, like, it was like having our own little private tour guide, like he was pointing out all sorts of stuff.
Oh, yeah, he was good.
Yeah,
there was no questions. Yeah. Sorry, I've got a bit of cough.
You're right.
Sorry.
So our accommodation, can you say that again a bit slower?
Eurostar,
yes.
Los Agustinos.
Agustinos. Now, this accommodation, when I told Jose that's where we were staying, the taxi driver, he said, "Oh, that is the best in Haro. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful." And it is, like, I loved it because it was built
I think he said Benito.
See, probably he did. But this, the building we stayed in, was built in the 1800s, and it was first
a
convent, and then it was a military hospital.
No, military barracks, and then it was a hospital.
A military hospital after that.
Yeah.
And then it was a
prison.
Yeah, a jail, a prison. And then in 1989, I can't remember that year, that was a good year, it became accommodation.
Yeah, hotel.
Yeah. It's so the rooms are the big wide hallways with like really wide, huge rooms, cool. Because it was quite warm while we were in Haro. So Jose dropped us there.
Actually, we did make a comment about that, how well looked after the prisoners must have been.
Yes.
But it was, the hotel itself was incredible. And
big central courtyard, like massive big central courtyard, which is now part of the cafe restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the corridors walk around the edge of the courtyard, and so you can look down, and so each level, I think it was only 2 or 3 levels anyway. It was, it was a great spot. And Jose also gave us some information about where to go in town. So what did we do that afternoon? On the way in, he showed us that area that we wanted to go and visit.
Estación.
Yeah, the barrio de...
Estación.
Sí. And what's that, Don?
Well, that basically is the area where all the bodegas are. And that's probably one of the most influential factors why we actually picked it, because you basically just go for a short stroll from the centre of town, and it's only a very, very small town.
It's like a 10-minute walk.
Yeah, 10-minute walk, and you walk over the river, and the bodegas are there.
So it's a train station which is basically surrounded by wineries.
Wineries, yeah. So
and they all set themselves up next door to each other, and so yes, you can go down there and go to... Well, I believe there's over 20 bodegas actually in Haro town. I don't know that not all there at the station, but there's quite a few, isn't there?
Yeah, and there've been, some of them have been established since the early 1800s. So it's some of them are absolutely beautiful, but that particular day we were a bit late. We'd been for a bit of a walk. We just went down for a bit of a recce really to have a look, and then we
because they only open from I think 10 in the morning and sometimes 12 till 3 p.m.
Correct.
That's it. So if you're not there by 3, you can't go in and taste their wine. So
and of course the beauty of it is, because it's only a 10-minute stroll, there's no designated driver required. So yeah, it's really like going from one wine bar to another. But we went back then and walked around, and we saw the swimming pool.
Back into Haro, that's right.
Yeah, and there was quite a large swimming pool just on the outskirts, and walked up around. Saw the cathedral, and
through the. It was not a Plaza Mayor, it's the Plaza de Luz, which is Plaza de Paz, which is the Plaza of Peace, which they call the.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And they've also got like a big display of barrels, which have got all the wine bodegas that are in the town there as well in the main square. I've got some nice photos of that main square area with those the barrels too.
And they had that mural on the wall. Like a full size mural of it looked like almost comic characters, but it was a policeman, and there was a gentleman that obviously had too much wine. Too much wine. But it was really clever. You know.
Basically Haro is tiny, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you wouldn't go to Haro unless you were really interested in trying some wine, because as well as the bodegas that we hadn't actually gone into at this stage, there are quite a few little wine shops selling wines from the different wineries, actually just in the main town area too, isn't there?
Yeah, it's all about wine.
Yeah.
The whole town's just all about wine.
Yeah.
But as we were saying, we came across the cathedral that was built in the 16th century. It's the Santo Tomas. And as we were walking around there, a lovely elderly gentleman was walking up the stairs, and Lan decided to try and chat him up.
Oh, I think that was the opposite way. He was so chatty, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I got about half of what he said, but he basically told me there were 71 stairs that he climbed up, and he was acting like he was Rocky.
Yeah.
And then, he told us where to go and get a nice view, which we did that too, so you can actually see, sort of from the top of Haro down over the beautiful river, the Ebro River, and over the wine areas from there. That was nice too.
But he was such a lovely guy. And then later on, down
that's right.
down when we were down near the river, down near the Estacion. Here he comes around the roundabout, bipping and waving at us.
He's in a car this time, and he's got his hand out the window, Yahoo, and he recognised us. I don't think I would have recognised him. We probably stood out a little bit, didn't we? So yeah, that was our first little day in Haro with lots of helpful stuff from Jose, and we really did a bit of as we said, a bit of a recon, ready for our first day at the bodegas. As we said, Haro is the capital of the La Rioja area of Spain, but it has a bit of history, Don.
Yeah, well, the reason why it became so important was there's two factors. One was that there was the railway made it to Haro, and the other factor was that the French had a really bad plague, a louse plague.
In their grapes.
In their grapes. It went right through all their Bordeaux area. So what happened is that the French then came over and invested in Spain, in this particular area, and they taught them all their methods of how to make the wine. And then, of course, then what happened is that they then the French imported all the La Rioja wine, and of course, then because that became so important, the mayor and all the important people in Haro decided to actually establish a wine-making school back in the 1890s. Mm. So it's been a pretty big deal there for a long time, and of course then with the railway station that obviously transported the wine to Bordeaux, and which is what firstly established the Estacion.
Makes sense. So these bodegas haven't just been built in there to sell wine to tourists. They were set up
around the railway station because it was effective and efficient.
Yeah, that's right. But since then, they've obviously done up buildings and gardens and that sort of thing. So, our first full day we headed. First full day. Let me tell you what we started with: a buffet breakfast to die for at Los Augustinos in the courtyard. Wasn't that nice?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
The fresh fruit was...
And I'm so glad we did that, because something really weird about Haro is it was really hard to find food, through the day, and then even at night, I thought maybe being a bit smaller, not so touristy, maybe people eat a bit earlier, but there was sometimes we couldn't get food at all.
Yeah.
So to try and find a coffee was difficult. So I'm so glad we did the brekkie thing. And of course I do the little, get the big serviette and chuck some muffins in there and wrap them up for later. As you do. I don't know. I think people are expected to steal food from buffets. That's just my opinion. And I'm just saving food that I didn't eat then to later. That's my excuse for it anyway. So after our big brekkie, we were quite late because and the other reason I wanted a big brekkie is because we're going down to drink wine, right? And I can't drink wine on a empty stomach. So off we go down on our little walk down to the Barrio de Estación, where all the bodegas are, and we do what any wine drinking fan would do. We stop at the first one.
Yeah, Muga. It's spelled M-U-G-A. It was a pretty hot day again, like it was up in the 40s.
This is when with heat waves was on, that's right. So, it was getting right up near 40 degrees, and we weren't going to walk too far that day. And honestly, let me describe this place to you. It's like this big old beautiful brick building. It's got ivy climbing up the walls. It's got like a little balcony out. It's got some like a little courtyard area. It's just shady. They've got the red flowers. They've got big bottles of wine on display. And the waiters are walking around in their lovely uniforms, and it's pretty flash. So it wasn't hard to decide to stop there. But then that's this one, and then the next one's got like an even maybe a different sort of size, build bigger, and they're all. No, they're not like the full size wineries we have at home, but each one really is individual, and
sure.
You just walk around and have a look at them all. But we stopped at Muga, didn't we?
Yeah, well, and that was established in 1932. We started off with a cava, which is the Spanish champagne, to toast Alexander.
Oh, sí, mi nieto. Sí, my new
Leon's
grandson.
new grandson.
Sí.
And then we had a rosé, and then we had a vino blanco, and that was mainly a Vieira grape, and we had some selected cheeses. For me, the guy that served us was only a young guy. I don't know whether it was his first day or...
Yeah,
but he definitely hadn't been there long.
And another guy came over and made him give us a bit more wine.
Yeah, so
when we say wine tasting, sorry, Don, just interrupt, but when we say wine tasting, it's not like you stand there and they put a little bit in you and you do all the stuff and smell it and sniff it. And no, you actually go there and you buy wine.
Yeah, you're just drawing a glass of wine. Basically.
Buying glass of wine.
But you do expect I expected a little bit more information on the wine. But you're not on a wine tour.
No.
It's almost like just going to a wine bar.
Except it's a really nice wine bar.
Oh yeah, and it was beautiful, and the cheese was lovely. He gave us more information about the cheese than the wine actually. But yeah, it was great. And then we headed off to our second winery.
Yeah.
It was the La Rioja Alta S.A.
That's
and
it.
that was established in 1890. I'll let Leanne describe the...
Well, this one you walked in through sort of a sweeping driveway, and on the left-hand side they've obviously got accommodation and conference rooms, and then you're walking through. The garden is just white flowers, so with the backdrop of the green was beautiful. So you're walking in through this sweeping driveway, and then they've got the paving, that terracotta colour with the beautiful green plantings, and then like all the different the white flowers on the bushes and as ground covers, and because it was stinking hot by this time, we didn't actually sit outside in the pergola area, which would have been divine. We went inside, which was actually very modern, wasn't it?
It was very modern, very elegant. The whole place really reeked of elegance.
Yeah, true.
For me,
look at you go with your describing words.
Well, even the lady that was doing the serving behind the counter, it almost seemed like she was part of the owners.
Yeah,
like she just was very elegant. She looked the part. Nice. She knew exactly what she was doing.
This must have been a pretty good winery too, because there were people buying boxes of it here.
Yeah. Oh, it's a very, very well-known winery. I sort of looked up both Muga and this winery, and did a little bit of research on the old Google, and they're very, very, very well respected.
So what did we have there? Like, I had a red. Didn't I have the reserva?
Yeah, we had the reserva. I went up to the lady and said, look, we don't really know that much about Vino Tinto in Spain. Anyway, she gave me the reserva. It was €6 per glass, which is
quite expensive. That's like $9 Australian.
And she said, try this. She said it's our bestseller for a good reason. And that was really all the description I got.
Yeah.
I think part of it is that we're not Spanish speakers. So, there's pretty limited...
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, sorry, Leanne does. But for me, I was the one that was going up to the bar, so I'm the one with the limited Spanish. And I think that, maybe they thought they'd be wasting their breath by trying to explain to me.
Just probably one. So that was lovely, wasn't it? But we did take our time, because it was, we're inside, it's aircon, and we know we've got to walk back up the hill. We decided... we'd probably had enough wine for the middle of the day, didn't we? Well,
we sort of decided really before we even left. We said we're just going to do 2 wineries today.
And we'll come back.
Come back.
Yeah,
but look, that particular La Rioja Alta, I preferred that more than the Muga. But in saying that, they were both good.
Yeah, but then we had some Muga at a restaurant we went to, which was really nice too. So
sure.
Just that, I guess they're the ones you go for because you know them now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. We were going. So we had to walk home, and yeah, it was definitely over 40 degrees. So I'm so glad that we had a lovely, cool, air-conditioned, spacious room in an old jail to, keep us cool in that hot part of the day before we headed out at night. Anything else about the wineries that you want to add there today, darling? No?
Just that. Really, just the elegance. You can tell there's a lot of money.
Sure, and we did mention there's about 20 bodegas actually in and around Haro itself. So, it's a great. A lot of Spanish people come from Madrid. It's only about 3 hours from Madrid.
Yeah.
And come for weekends and just spend their time going out to wineries and in town. And the wineries around the area as well. So, yeah, you definitely need to be a bit of a wine lover to go to Haro. See or no?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm excited. Now we're going to tell you all about one of the places in Spain that I'd never heard of, and it's probably one of those wow places that I'll never forget. See or no?
Yeah, it was highly recommended by Jose, our taxi man. The town is called Laguardia.
It's which is like the guard area, which
and it's about 630 metres above sea level. It's basically just on a hill, and it's a medieval city, so it's a walled city. There's about 5 entrances to it, and it is unbelievably beautiful.
Yeah, so we're driving up, a bit of a windy road, and we get dropped off right at the lookout area outside the walls of the city, and you can just see for miles and miles and miles, and basically vineyard after vineyard after vineyard, and there's some of the really big famous architectural design vineyards you can see in the distance, and then behind that you have that mountain range, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like the Sierra Cantabria or something.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow, bloody wow. It was, like I'm just like, we've been dropped into a little fairy tale wine, medieval village here. Like I had no idea what it was like. I thought, I don't know, didn't really know what to expect, but we were wowed, and we also were recommended to do a wine tour there, but we had a bit of time to fill in before we did that. So we headed in through the main sort of gates or arch to the city, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
And once again, just like beautiful old buildings and little windy streets. It's not that big. It's only had like 3 or 4 main streets.
No, there's only 1,500 inhabitants.
Okay.
Of it, and it's actually located in the southern province of Alava in the north of Spain.
So it's actually in the Basque country, right?
It is.
Yeah. So
it belongs to the region of Rioja Alavesa in the Basque Autonomous Community. It is the municipal chartered was granted in 1164.
Whatever that means, it sounds
it just means that's when it was established, 1164. So it's pretty old,
really old. So we had a bit of a wander around the streets, and some towns just go all out. Like they've got the balconies with the beautiful flowers and the cobblestone streets. Just there wasn't a thing out of place in this little village. It was pristine, and as we're walking around, we then come across one of the main plazas, and there's this lady sitting there playing piano accordion, and the Spanish flag waving above her head, and the beautiful little shopping shops around the edge of the plaza. It was just it was almost too much to take in. It was so beautiful.
Only a tiny place. Like it was like you could probably walk around the wall of the city in about 30 minutes. Like
we sort of did, didn't we?
Yeah, it was, but it was almost like fantasy.
Yeah,
it was. It's almost impossible to describe the feelings you had just seeing it. It was that beautiful. And
I will, I include quite a few pictures from Laguardia because I took so many of them. But once again, Jose recommended a wine tour this time, not just a visit to a winery. And we went to this at 1 o'clock. I think we had to turn up, and it was Casa
Primicia,
and. So we go in through this little old door, and you not confronted, but you can see old brickwork, and there's sort of glass on the floor, which is you can see down into like cellars and things, can't you? So we go on that wine tour, which you loved, didn't you?
Yeah, it was 2 things I love: history and wine. And it was about both of them, and the
what about me?
The Casa and you, yes. The Casa Primicia is the oldest civil building in the medieval town of Laguardia. The place where the church received the taxes of the peasants since the 15th century. So originally, the church must have.
So this, what we're talking about, this was a church.
Yeah.
Right. So, yes, the winery that we went to visit was originally a church, and they would charge, as Lyle said, people taxes, and their taxes would be to bring their grapes, and so the church had these big storage rooms, 4 of them, that held like 20,000 kilos or something of no, that can't be right. It was massive, and they'd fill them all up and make wine out of them, the church.
Yeah, and then the poor peasants would buy back their grapes, but now the whole wine. So
Yeah,
they got taxed and then they had to buy it back. But tell them how that they actually stored the wine, like how they took the wine home.
Well, they took the wine home in a big goat skin.
Correct.
Looked like you're carrying this great big bloated goat on your shoulder.
Yeah.
But we went into where the grapes were held in the church, and the walls are stained red from the grapes, right?
Yep.
So that was fascinating. And then they dug out caves underneath.
Yeah.
They must have had some caves sort of framework there, and tunnels, because they were talking about tunnels going from one side to the other, and but they made them so they would store wine. Yeah,
and they were like they were built over 900 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and then they had all the escape tunnels.
Yeah.
As well, like it was incredible.
Because this originally, I think, was like a lookout town, wasn't it? Because of its position, obviously. But in these caves, they used to take dogs down with them, and if the dog sort of keeled over, they knew that they had to get up pretty quick, or didn't keel over. It started getting a bit wonky on its legs.
Yeah, because of the lack of oxygen the increase in the CO2.
So they eventually realised they could put like a tunnel up to the land and get air in. So,
the oxygen in.
The oxygen in. So we wandered around in the caves and the tunnels, and looked.
Yeah, they actually take you down into it, and it's quite cool down there, and it's quite moist down there. Very, very
I wouldn't like
interesting.
to have gone down without electricity though, back in the day.
Oh, no way.
Wow, that was so it was really interesting, and we got lots of information and about this place. But what happened was then I think the church became abandoned, and over time, and then a local man, Juan Madrid,
correct,
decided he wanted to sort of make Laguardia the heart of the La Rioja area, I think, and he wanted to bring this building back to life. And didn't he? And that's why it was turned into a wine cellar. And
when it's only been it hasn't been that long that they actually have had this building, because as Lan said, it had been abandoned for a long time, and I think Juan Madrid had gone to the council, and eventually the council came in and just said, look, to the previous owner, you have to sell it. And then that's when they found all the underground. He thought he was buying an old church originally, but then he found all underneath the Roman, not the Roman, the old vats, and that.
But they found evidence of wine dating back even further than they thought, like back,
Roman time. They actually said Roman time. That's what I got.
Yeah, so this place, which was now a wine place, it was a church that was making wine. Previous to it being a church, there was someone there making wine as well. So for thousands of years, wines have been made in this. And
that's why they call it the primacea, the first.
The first, right? Yeah. So Juan Madrid died, I think, before he saw everything come to fruition, but now his sons and grandsons are running the business. And a really nice touch on the bottles of wine at.
I forgot.
Yeah, they've got a thumbprint of Juan Madrid, and it's on the label, and they make it look like a grape, don't they? Yeah. It's really that sounds a bit dicky, I know, but it does look. It was really good. I thought that was a nice touch.
I thought it was one of the best marketing labels,
because it's a story, right? He brought that to life. So then we went and did a wine tasting, which is part of the tour. So you pay to have a tour, and then part of that is you get to taste a couple of the wines. And we learnt something about wine tasting that we'd never had before in all the wineries we've been to. What did they do, Don?
Yeah, the young lady that was looking after us, she said, pick up your white serviettes, which were there, and tip the glass so that you're looking basically through the wine to the serviette, and it'll give you the true colour of the wine. And it does. Like, it was totally... And I'd never, ever heard of it before.
Well, I saw because there was two other people on the wine tour with us, and I saw the lady next to me who was very glamorous, and she picked up the serviette and put her wine glass on there. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a new way to look at wine for us. We'll have to take that one back to Adrian, won't we?
Yeah. But obviously...
I've got a beautiful photo of a wine glass, red wine, through the windows. We're now up the top of this winery and down over all the vineyards. You'll have to go to the website, beachtravelwine.com, and check out the show notes for this and just check the beautiful photos there. So,
yeah, I think that the wine tour is definitely more focused on the history than probably the wine. But I know that I had a look at, again, did a bit of Googling on the Travel Sierra winery. They've won everything in the world.
That you can win on wines, right?
On wine. I mean, the amount of awards, gold medals, just incredible.
I'll put a link to it in the show notes on our website as well. So
and in Spain they have what they call a pyramid of wine. Cool. And the top of the pyramid is the Vino de Pago, and the lady was explaining how that actually works, and it's all about the grape, one grape. They can't use grapes from another estate close to them. It all has to be the one grape. And she also said how, you can't have pesticides and all that sort of stuff. So they have to buy out the area around them to make sure that there's no pesticides, and that's why it's so expensive.
Yeah, so that's why it's expensive and really good quality, yeah?
Yeah.
So we really, as you can tell, love that wine tour and the history, and as Lyle said, the two things he loves most in the world, history and wine.
Oh, no, that's not correct.
Anyway, we did a little bit more of a wander around Laguardia. It was getting quite hot, so we decided we'd have some lunch. And we were recommended a place, but unfortunately they were closed that day for a day off. So we went and found a nice sort of restaurant right on the edge of
the escarpment.
Called Cafe
Blanca.
They were so friendly. Come on in, and he put us at a table right at the window there. You want to sit over here where the view is, and
yeah, he was smooth. And Leanne was speaking to him in Spanish, and he told Leanne how well she spoke Spanish. And of course, that put a smile on Leanne's face. And then somehow it came out that Leanne had just had a new grandchild, and it was her 8th, and he couldn't believe that someone that looks so young as Leanne could have 8 children. So Leanne,
8 grandchildren.
8 grandchildren, 3 children, 8 grandchildren. And I don't think that Leanne cared whether what dinner was, lunch was like, because she just liked Juan, his name was.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, he was the smoothest dude I'd ever come across.
Yeah, well, it's nice to get some compliments and speak Spanish. And,
and he was so right, wasn't he?
Yeah. But the view was lovely. Like, it was just a really nice place to sit, and we just chatted about how beautiful the city was and what a nice tour we'd had and how much we'd learnt, and we were feeling, pretty proud of ourselves, pretty happy with our day, weren't we?
Yeah, I think
we were amazed actually at Laguardia. Yeah,
it was just unbelievable.
But it didn't end there. Then, what we had to do was let Jose know when we were ready. Give him about half an hour. So we decided we would walk around the outside of the city, back around to our pickup point, And that's what we did. And like, wow, the path, the trees, the grass, the gardens. There's an old castle sort of now that's, I don't know if it's old or it's built to look old, accommodation there. Just all around this headland, they've landscaped the gardens, and, there's a hedge sort of right on the edge, and as you're walking around, you've got these big, beautiful, shady trees and the paths and the ancient buildings on one side, and on the other side you've got the vineyards, just rolling down to the hills, which then turn into the Sierra, Cantabria, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just the most stunning landscape you can imagine, and I just took photo after photo, and we just stopped and just were in awe of how beautiful it was, with the mountain backdrop, and as we we went round, there's a beautiful little children's playground, and then there's a rotunda, and we could have just sat there and taken that all in for ages. In fact, I did. Sometimes I get overwhelmed with how amazing things are, and I just have to sit and take it in. So we so that was nice, wasn't it? We got all the way back around to the first lookout point, just in time for Jose to pick us up. Yeah, and I suppose I'm going to give Jose a bit of a rap here in that I can't even remember what it was. I think it was about €40 each way, which sounds a lot, but if you had to go and hire a car, and you're in, say, you're somewhere for 7 days, how many of those days you actually use the car and that sort of thing? You don't. I just think it's the most convenient, effective way to get around. And that's right. And so you can actually, pay someone to take you there, and you can't get there without a car. No. So, but we only need to do that 1 day trip there, and we did everything Jose recommended, and it was spot on.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't know Laguardia exists.
No,
but
never
for
heard of it.
Jose.
Yeah, exactly. And he went out of his way to sort of take us past the. And I should have the name of this, but it's like the famous,
It's the same guy that designed.
Something.
It's the same guy that designed the Guggenheim
Museum in Bilbao. See, and he's done a winery there, but they've got it basically barricaded off to us plebs. You have to be. It's like people like Brad Pitt go and stay there. The rich and the famous go there. But he did drive us past so we could have a look, and that was really. It is pretty fancy, I have to say.
Oh, look, there's guards everywhere and that sort of thing, and we could have got in.
To go to a winery.
Yeah, to go to a winery. We could have got in, but to me it was like, well, if you don't want to take my money, if it's that hard, all I want to do is spend some money. So we both, Leanne and I, looked at each other and said, well, you can stick it.
Yeah.
We'll just.
We were so happy. We were still on our
high from Laguardia.
Laguardia, see. So, all right, Lyle, let's go to. Have you got anything else you want to add? Sorry, before I ask the $3,000 question.
Not really. I just think we found the food in Haro.
A tad disappointing.
Do
you know what we did? But we one night the plaza was packed full of people, and everyone's drinking, but nobody's eating. There is no food, as I said before, available. And so we might have gone early because we were hungry. We just we can wait to 8 o'clock, but not 8:30 or 9. And the next night we went out looking for somewhere to eat. The places that were pumping at 8 o'clock, 8:30, were still closed. They weren't even going to open till 9.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't quite figure it out. And
actually, that's a good call, because I'll take back the quality of the food. So I was saying the quality of the food wasn't that good. I think it was just the lateness, because we had food at Beethoven's.
Yes.
And my meals, I had the veal with the pate. It was beautiful. We had lamb cutlets at the hotel where we were staying. Yeah, they were nice. They were beautiful.
Yeah. We've had dessert there.
Yeah.
We'd go home and have dessert there. Yeah, so we had some nice food.
So that's a bit unfair. But I just think It's so late.
Yeah, it was, and you know, we'd been waiting all day, and it was so hot, and
that's another thing that
but
there
wasn't really the consistency of knowing what time something opened. You know, they just didn't have a time. You know, so we just opened at 9 o'clock tonight, and you go there thinking they'll be open because they were at 8 o'clock, and they just weren't. So that was a bit weird. I
think you got chatting to
someone else.
the barman at
another barman.
The Eurostar Los.
That's true. Where was our accommodation? Yeah, another Spanish chat.
Yeah, and he was such a nice guy.
Yeah.
I had no idea what they were talking about, but Leanne seemed to be enjoying the conversation.
Yeah,
but they were just very friendly.
Yeah. So, Haro, we went there to enjoy some wines of the La Rioja region. Did we achieve that? Most definitely we did.
Sure.
And with that nice little, absolute, divine little town or village of Laguardia, thrown in there, that was just unexpected and one of my favourite memories of our Spain trip so far.
For me, I'd like to add also just the unbelievable landscape.
Yeah.
That La Rioja area is just spectacular.
So, where was your favourite place to have a vino in Haro / Laguardia?
It certainly wasn't in that Irish pub.
No, the black and red one. Smelled of smoke.
I'd
have to say at the winery tour in Laguardia, looking out over the vineyards, the red wine I was having, that's my favourite place. I keep forgetting what it's called, Primacea. Yeah, Casa Primacea, that's my favourite place. And you?
I'm probably going to go LaGuardia too, but Cafe Blanca.
Where we had lunch.
Yeah. He was such a nice bloke.
Yeah. And probably the nicest wine I had was the Reserva at La Rioja Alta. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. You too?
Agreed.
Yeah. So, Haro's the place to go if you love wine. For sure. There's not a lot there to do besides eat late and
nothing there to do.
And wine. But you don't need to love wine to go to LaGuardia and to visit the La Rioja area. Like it is just the landscape and that little village. You'll never see anything like that anywhere in the world. It's spectacular. And
try not to do it when it's 42 degrees.
Yeah, well, we didn't mean it to be 42 degrees.
No, I know
it did take the shine off it a little bit, but just because we had to be indoors a bit more than we.
Yeah, we definitely would have done more bodegas.
But 42 degrees, walking, drinking wine just doesn't mix, unfortunately. So, yeah, we definitely recommend you go there to try out the wines for sure. See or no?
See.
Right. Well, as I said, go to see the show notes and all the pictures from this episode on www.beachtravelwine.com, or you can actually go to Instagram and go to the story highlights up the top and click on Haro, and you'll see the videos I've taken of our wanders around the bodegas and LaGuardia and the wine tour we did, and have a look there. So we'll see you next time from our international podcast studio. It's hasta luego from me.
And it's hasta luego from me.